your host, Warlock Recall, and my co host, Syntax. Welcome once again to Check Your Six podcasts. How you doing?
Hey everyone, hey Joe. I'm pretty good. Just been a busy week. So I'm the diva that made us reschedule. So
Well, we're doing this out of the goodness of our hearts to help these poor college students find some joy in their school from home, school from their dorm room, school from online hell that you're paying way too much for. We're helping them find some joy in their lives and for their friends to see what they do for fun. Sorry, my dog decided to start nipping at my toes. Did I wake you up? I am so sorry. You find a nice cozy spot. There
new
you go.
pupper.
Okay. Yeah. He's okay. Now he's curled up against my foot. We're good now. Welcome, homie Migs in chat. Nice to have you around once again. We'll look for your wonderful insight once again and flavor commentary. So, if you get other people in, they'll be on the show too. We've got a couple weeks to catch up on. We didn't broadcast on Monday, so we missed out on being current with week 4, but we will go into those matches and setups as well. But we also have a lot of week 5 in CEA to cover and some pretty cool match results to talk about from CR6 as well. And we'll jump into a little bit of the FACEIT League preseason. They're calling the fall season their preseason. They've come out and said that this is how they are going to get everyone hyped up and ready for the real season in the spring. So this is going to be a big deal starting for teams getting ready. And like Homie Migs is saying in chat, we'll see some teams are in Southern Esports Invitational, so that's pretty cool. And a lot of matches for FACEIT and CR6 were today. So that's a lot of week 5 matchups for CR6 and week 3 matchups, I believe, for FACEIT. So we'll cover most of week 4 for CR6, but weeks 4 and 5 in CEA. And we're not going to go too much into the matches and FACEIT, but we'll talk about that a little bit later, and we'll tell you why. Diving right into the Rogue Spear division of CEA, we have reigning champions Akron, surprise, sitting there on top of the pile, 5-0, taking down each of their teams, each of the opponents in their league one time through decisively in a best of 2 map setup, winning both maps each time. Which, as we look in the stats and we talk about that, you'll see how different that is from all the other teams, which is an impressive feat once again for Akron to have pulled off this level of performance consistently across 2.5 years now. Yeah. Akron 5-0, 15 points, a round differential of 47.
I literally don't think anyone can catch up. They could lose every game from here on.
Well, and so this is it. Like they had a 5-week season. This is the playoff teams are determined. So we can break down. They just flat stomped everybody, and so they'll easily be seeded number 1 going into the playoffs. But things get interesting after first place because the next 3 teams are tied in points. 2 of the teams have identical records with a difference in round differential of 1. So CU Boulder Black is in second because of a higher round differential. Their round differential, 0, goose egg, which is crazy to think that that's second place because CU Boulder Black in this league is 2 partial wins, meaning they won 1 map and then drew the second map. So 2 partial wins. Those were their best results of a 5-week season in CEA. Hold on to that. Two partial wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss, and they are in second place.
That is the most odd scoring I've ever seen from a team before.
Right, and I mean that's like the Seattle Seahawks having a losing record and making it to the playoffs. Like that happened. This is happening. This is weird.
What an interesting result.
And exactly. And when we look at the next results, it's going to be even more interesting. Michigan Tech University had 1 win, for 3 points, one partial win for 2 points, and one draw for 1 point, and then 2 losses. And so they're in third place. Even though they had the same amount of points, they're in third place because of round differential. Their round differential is -5. That's third place, and they're going to the playoffs.
Like it goes, the round differentials goes insanely positive to 0 to negative. Like there's no there's no mid positive. It's just
Yeah,
it's all like highly positive and then just low.
plummets. And so fourth place, Pennsylvania State University, again, 6 points, one win, one partial win, one draw, and 2 losses. Their round differential is -6. So that one round put them into the 4th seed for their division, which we'll have to see how that pans out, because the top 4 teams from this division and the top 4 teams from Ravenshield, the other division, they'll be seeded 1 through 8. So when we look at the round differentials here, because there is no middle ground positive, you can almost guarantee, we'll look at the stats for the other division in a second, but you can almost guarantee that CU Boulder Black, Michigan Tech, and Pennsylvania State are going to be seeded on that low end of the top 8 overall. So Rogue Spear has Akron carrying the division's hope of pulling home a championship. So take the teams aside and put them into a division and say, who's the best representative of Collegiate Rainbow Six? And if CU Boulder, Michigan Tech, Pennsylvania State, if they want to ride off of saying, hey, we at least lost to the champions, if they want to pull that at least card, by all means, let them. But it means that their hopes of pulling home a championship in their division comes from Akron, which is not a bad horse to put your bet on, just to be blatantly obvious. The other 2 teams in the division, they're just done. So CSULB, much to my surprise, 1 win, 4 losses, -13 round differential, which, ouch.
Well, it doesn't add up, because when I look at the other, it's like they didn't care about this league. Because if you look at the other leagues and their stats in their leagues, in CR6, CSULB, they've got 3 wins. They're sitting in third place for their conference. Out of however many, I didn't count them, but and then you look at FACEIT. Forget what group they were in. I think it was like C or D, E, whatever. Wherever it is, I just saw them.
Well, I mean, they would net
have
positive
3
wins. Yeah, and they even have that in CR6, and they're in third place in the Mountain Pacific division.
Yeah.
Only third place, and they're third place, assuming they don't lose in week 5, which we'll find out soon. But if they say they win week 5 and they're 4-1, CU Boulder Black being 5-0 in the same division, but CU Boulder Black is in the same league, and we're getting into this already. We're jumping ship, kind of comparing notes across leagues, and I like doing this. CU Boulder Black is winless in CEA, with CSULB also having 1 win and 4 losses. CSULB is just not performing in CEA, and neither is CU Boulder Black, because CU Boulder Black is 5-0 in CR6. This is like so weird.
Yeah, it's like both those teams joined CEA, and then they were just like, screw it. They wanted to focus their attention on the other leagues, which is perfectly fine, but you might as well just withdraw from the league,
Yeah. And so, but at the same time, maybe this is how close these 2 teams are in performance. 3-1, 4-0, or 5-0, and possibly 3-1, or 4-1 for CSULB. So they're close in CR6, but Michigan. Go ahead.
I think we have Olvin in chat here from Boulder Black. He might be able to shine some light.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Olvin. two partial wins still totally counts. I mean, you're in second place because of those partial wins, and it was so close. I mean, with a 0 round differential, you are so close to going positive and starting to pull off wins. All three of these teams, I don't want to take anything away from them. It's a highly competitive playoff or division around these three teams: Michigan Tech, CU Boulder Black, and Pennsylvania State. And so, I mean, it's a highly competitive between those three, and that's why we don't see much in between. But at the same time, they still had to play CSUL they still had to play CSULB and Arizona State, who are just like not at all performing. -13, -23 round differential, 4 losses or 2 draws and 3 losses for Arizona State. Like, to me, those two teams look like they're out of their depth when you compare them to Pennsylvania State, Michigan Tech, and CU Boulder Black. But then those three teams are so close to each other that it's hard to really negotiate who's doing well and who's like not paying attention to CEA. It's hard to draw that. So we give them the benefit of the doubt, saying they are being competitive, they are playing. And just when you look at CR6, with CSULB and CU Boulder Black being in the same division and close to each other, and we can see that Michigan Tech is in a different division, but they've fallen a little bit, but they also might be up against very different competitive teams. Maybe Mountain Pacific just isn't as competitive overall as what we're thinking. Homie Miggs is saying he heard that CSULB lost 2 or 3 players that were hard carries. That's going to be a big deal. That's huge.
Because he said that teams that qualified for Premier CEA at the end of the spring didn't have the same people on the rosters as in the fall, and that makes sense. But also it doesn't make sense on the league's part, because this is a college league. You know that between semesters, people are going to leave and people are going to rejoin. So why would you have qualifiers in one season and then continue that in the next? If I'm reading that correctly. So I feel like you should qualify and play in the same season. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and that makes total sense.
Yeah, and Olvin also saying that CU Boulder Black also lost 2 carries. So it makes more sense. They're both in the same place, and maybe all of these teams, like Michigan Tech, I don't know their status of their team, but they kind of came out of nowhere to be competitive. So maybe this is just seeing where the 3 teams are colliding, because CSULB and CU Boulder have fallen a little bit from where they were, at least in CEA. And having them match up this way, it's putting 3 teams that are very close to each other actually in competition. It's just that Akron is that much farther ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
Which it's a comparable data point for those teams to be like, okay, we're not in our final form. We can consider Akron the final form and where people could aim to be. That's enough about Rogue Spear. Going over to Raven Shield, we see what looks to be a more competitive middle, but at the same time, we see a crazy drop-off in round differential. RIT, top of the stack, runners up to last spring's championship to Akron, so we might get a rematch of last spring's championship, which would be great. I would love to see RIT take it to Akron just to be like, this far and no farther. RIT 3 wins, 1 partial win, so that's only 4 rounds. So I got to see what their 5th week looks like, but it's entirely possible FIU pulls off a win or pulls off a greater score gain this week, and they take the number 1 seed. Entirely possible. So we got RIT with 11 points, FIU with 10, Madison, Wisconsin, 1 win, 3 draws, 1 loss, -2 round differential in 3rd. Carnegie Mellon, 4 points, 1 win, 1 draw, 3 losses, -22 round differential. So looking at those, thinking about the top four, if Raven Shield is what we were going to go into the playoffs with, we would have Carnegie Mellon in 8th. We would have Pennsylvania State in 7th, Michigan Tech in 6th, Madison in 5th, CU Boulder Black in 4th. That's not right. Yeah, 4th. Florida 3rd, RIT 2nd, and Akron 1st. So I mean that's a pretty good step up. But when you consider how far down we look at round differential and everything, we're going to see like the top 4 be a very different caliber of team. So RIT, FIU, Akron, and then CU Boulder Black kind of bringing up the rear with their 0 round differential. At the moment, at least, we'll have to see how it breaks down into playoffs, because apparently they're going to be competitive with 3 of the 8 teams that are there, for 5 of the teams. So 5 of the teams, they'll stand a chance at pulling through. It's going to be a challenge for them. I think for any of those bottom 4 and CU Boulder, it's going to be a challenge to make it past round 1. Thinking about that. So a lot of teams know what work is in front of them. They're going to be, so those 4 teams on each side going to be seeded 1 through 8, and they'll go through playoffs as you would expect. The bottom 2 teams of each division will be facing relegation to play the top 4 teams of the Open League. And so we'll have 4 new teams potentially joining us in the spring to cover and see if maybe we can flatten out this extreme bell curve a little bit more and see some more competitive matches, I suppose, or less drastically one-sided. And that's pretty much CEA. We're looking for week 5 to be pulled up, and I actually have some notes. So week 5, Pennsylvania State. Okay, yeah, Pennsylvania State versus Michigan Tech was their last matchup. It was a 7-3 on Oregon for Pennsylvania State, 6-6 tie on Clubhouse, so a partial win for PSU, and that was their last match of the open or of the season. So they had a potential to get, what was that, another point that would have put them directly into second place had they had won, just a flat out win. So that would have given them 7 points and 7 points total instead of 6. So, and because of the round differential, that actually puts them to the bottom of the 6-stack points. Exciting stuff with CEA. I love, like, the data shows excitement. The data shows reasons to look forward to any match of the week, basically, because everything is so tight and so close. The playoffs should start the week of the 21st, so not until around Wednesday. So that will be the first place team versus 8th place, 4th versus 5th, 2nd versus 7th, 3rd versus 6th, and I'll just wait until a little bit longer to confirm who those teams are going to be. But we have some stuff to look forward to each week all the way through December 2nd. So a full month of exceptional matches from CEA coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, this is exciting. I'm going to switch on over to CR6 to show off the standings. Now, that's not my spreadsheet, but it'll do for showing off. Here we have everything through week 4. Now, there's 2 matchups that I want to call out that I was able to track down some data on. We got CU Boulder Black. Olven, congratulations for being 5-0 in the Mountain Pacific division of CR6 after beating Cal Esports. So that's a huge boon, as they'll be heading into the playoffs undefeated. That's got to be a great vibe. So there's a lot of hard work on that team, which, again, that's just what surprises me about their CEA performance. 2 partial wins, or 2 draws, no wins, and it's just, how does this happen? I want to dive into the data so bad. So CU Boulder, and on this spreadsheet, there's a known bug with round differential that they've got to figure out. So don't, as they say, take a dump truck size load of salt with a round differential and don't read into it too badly. But for the most part, this is up to date through week 4. Moving on, so we'll have CU Boulder Black 5-0, Cal State 4-1. We'll look for CSULB to see if they can pull off a 4-1 as well. Boise State hanging in there. They were starting to be competitive last season, and here they are, top dogs in Mountain Pacific. I look forward to see how deep they can go into the playoffs, and at the moment, they're qualifying for Premier, which is pretty great. Oregon State on that cusp of making it into Premier. They're one of my dark horses I was really looking forward to. I think Homie Miggs was also looking for them being a dark horse as well. CU Boulder Gold, B team, coming in strong, looking like they'll make some playoffs as well. That's great for CU Boulder esports to show off what they've got, maybe get a little more notice on campus. Over to the Midwest, Purdue, surprising me, coming through strong and pulling off win after win apparently, and to go up against Illinois State, and our favorite acronym is back, CGC UIC, or Competitive Gaming Club at University of Illinois Chicago. Thank you guys for coming back and making my life hell trying to remember your acronym.
What a name.
What a name. Look at us. Here we are. CGC UIC. We're good. So welcome back to the Premier Playoffs. That's pretty awesome. University of Wisconsin Whitewater. They've been around. They're doing well, pulling through. I want to look at the round differential. I want to use that, and I mean this looks pretty clean as we go down. So, I mean, if we take it with a dumpster tier load of salt, we're still seeing really competitive. Yeah, it drops off, but you're going to have on that bell curve, you're going to see that for teams who are 4-1, 5-0, you're going to see that fall off, and it's going to get closer. I like seeing that it's getting to the negatives at the bottom of those qualifying for playoffs, meaning when they won, they were winning by greater margins than just a round or two. But we're getting there. These teams are getting really competitive, even all the way down to the bottom. So with this many teams, yeah, you would hope to see competitive teams being the ones to make it into the playoffs, which CR6 has done a great job vetting these groups, even locally, like really making those calls about where they go. And for the B teams who get shuffled into different divisions so that they're not playing their varsity squads, like this is still creating a really competitive environment, and the integrity of the league is maintained really well. Let's see what else is going on. Illinois State, I mean, they belong at the top, no doubt. Longhorn Gaming and Texas Tech was actually being played when I started getting ready for the show, so that one's probably wrapped up or just about ready to. And last I saw, Texas Tech was up 1-0, so good luck to them.
To be honest, if I'm going to be 1,000% honest, I did not expect Longhorns to be in first place. Maybe I'm out of the loop, but last time I heard about Longhorn, the Longhorn team, like I didn't think they were a first place team, but I guess they are.
Yeah,
so that's a surprise to me.
Got to look forward to those kind of upsets and seeing how teams can surprise us. I mean, the one thing that we really need to be cognizant of is how much these teams can change season to season. I mean, we don't, and I mean, beyond the teams, we got to look at the clubs themselves, the varsity teams. Is the school actively recruiting now? Some schools are actively recruiting players for specific games. Like Maryville is all over Overwatch and League of Legends. Akron, for all I know, or Saints Gaming could be pitching scholarships for Rainbow Six. And that's going to be a different caliber of team. And so, like, there's so many moving parts in collegiate esports that it's really hard to say why one team falls off over another. Okay, Homie Miggs confirms St. Clair esports was recruiting for Siege. So,
you know what's funny is, like, when this podcast, when we first started talking about it, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, you know what? I wonder if the rise of Siege is actually going to influence people's decision on where they go to college because of who they want to play for.
It is now.
I wonder if it is actually going to happen. Yeah, I guess so. If they're actively recruiting people to go to their college, then
Colleges are actively recruiting. Ubisoft is formally supporting this. FACEIT is doing the marketing and publishing and providing opportunity and large prize pools. Universities getting free, essentially free, because their scholarships and their support just have to be like room and board or even just a little bit of assistance because no one's expecting to go to college on a full ride right now for playing esports. The return is possibly even bigger than just a few $1,000s. So recruiting, especially in this COVID era where traditional sports teams are having their seasons cut and canceled, some schools are able to rejigger their finances for what was going to go to a traditional sports team and put it towards esports. Some colleges are doing that, which is like crazy opportunity if those schools have started putting the like investing in the infrastructure and starting to actually legitimately try and understand esports, because what you can see is the same kind of mentality of that you see in professional esports, like, oh, I'm going to start an esports team and it's going to be great, but then they never pay their players and they just fall off the face of the earth because they weren't actually there to be legitimate guides into esports. You can have some colleges doing that, but they won't last long. They'll see, oh, we didn't get anybody, or we didn't perform well, we didn't win, so cancel the program, cancel this investigation, and then they'll be out. But the kids who go to that school for that reason, who are recruited for that reason, even though the university doesn't fully believe in it, they're going to be shit out of luck, which is going to suck. But we're going to have that boom and bust aspect of it as well. But yes, absolutely, I think we will start seeing more colleges take Rainbow Six more seriously, but right now they're focusing a lot on like League of Legends and Overwatch because that's where attention was drawn. And it's I mean, there's also some content concerns from schools about the style of game as well. Overwatch has a fictional wrapper to it as well as no blood or anything like that, and it's very science fictiony, so they get that pass. And League of Legends, third person, cartoony, all that kind of stuff. So Rainbow Six falls in a different realm all in itself, and so the considerations for a university to promote that kind of activity is another level of barrier. So interesting stuff, but not the league discussion that we're going for, but tidbits for everyone. If you want to learn more, you can check out the other podcast that I do called The Summoning Hour, where I talk directly with college esports clubs and directors and everyone just to get lay of the land of what esports is like at each school and trying to do more with it. So if you have suggestions, feel free to reach out to me at anchor.fm/the summoning hour/message or at Warlock Recall on Twitter. All good. And you can do the same thing for this podcast too. If you have input that you weren't able to join us for the show with, anchor.fm/checkyour6/message, and leave your feedback there. We'll work it into the podcast. Love having community inputs. So if you have that idea that goes off your head 3 a.m. because you're thinking nothing about my podcast and Rainbow Six, you can go, I'm going to leave that guy a message. And you can do that, and you'll be on the podcast most likely. So
it's always fun when we get messages because it gives us something more to talk about than just numbers, right?
Right. And if you ever want to be an interview guest or a guest to come on here and talk the numbers with us, by all means, reach out. We love having guests and having interviews, and gives us a little more insight into the league from a player perspective and what's going on from what you know with boots on the ground, because we're casual outside observers trying to make sense of this collegiate world. So any help that you have, any data you have is highly valuable to us. Moving on, so Longhorn Gaming doing very well. I mean, they were part of the death group in, what was it? What was the league? The league that shut down over the summer. I forget the name. It was the one run by Space Station.
CRSL?
CRSL, that was the acronym. So they were in the group of death. They were right there alongside UTSA, A&M, Texas Tech. They were all right there. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that they're doing well. I might be a little surprised that they're doing this well. I mean, because UTSA, UT Arlington, Oklahoma State, also another dark horse, the Cajuns, Mississippi State University. Yeah, the more I look at this division, Gulf Coast, I'm terrified of this squad. I'm terrified of this. Like the teams who are going into the playoffs from this group are going to go far, hands down. That's my like, yes, this is happening. Like these teams are going to do incredibly well. Southern Division, Ohio State on top, 4-0. Georgia Tech 4-0. They'll be playing this week, so we'll have a decisive 5-0 team coming out from this group. University of San Francisco, I believe. Bowls 3. University of Georgia, Red. I mean, they've been around for a while since I first started covering the scene, so they're doing well. Well enough to make it into the Premier. We'll see if they've grown much or if they're just kind of going to keep holding the line. Michigan State University, team who came out of nowhere. They're sitting here in Premier. Pretty sweet. Southern Florida, that's right. University of Southern Florida. So many possible names for these acronyms, and I've got to start drilling flashcards with names and acronyms and being like, okay. Virginia Tech, I mean, I'm surprised to see them here, to be honest. University of Kentucky, another team that historically has done okay, like bottom of the middle. They've pulled up their performance well enough to be here, so that's pretty sweet. Florida Polytechnic University, this is kind of low for what I expect from them. Kennesaw State University, same thing. Tennessee Tech, honestly don't know much about them. Liberty Red, don't know much about them. You commented on UCF not being in CEA, and
Yeah.
I mean, for this might be indicate a little bit why, like bottom of the open league or open playoff qualifiers right now, with only 2 wins out of 5 weeks or 4 weeks on the spreadsheet. So
What
I mean,
happened?
my guess is that the player, like the
player
golden player, just left. Graduated, stopped playing, whatever the reason. Like the squad's just not the same. BGSU, I don't know anything about them. University of Michigan is showing up strong. So University of Michigan State was up here, and then you have Michigan Technological University over in the Midwest Division also qualifying. So 3 Michigan teams.
Oh, it's UCF's B team that's in the South Division. Okay.
Oh.
UCF A team is in CEA Division 6.
Oh, okay. So they split their squads across leagues. Interesting. That's good to know. Thank you, CJomo. And we still got to have you on the podcast. You should reach out and we'll make a time work. Moving over to wrong tab. Let's go back. Let's show off for everybody. So that was the Southern Division. We've got the last group, University of Montreal versus Akron. That actually I have a read on, which is Akron winning, surprisingly, not really, to be 5-0 in the Northern Division after beating University of Montreal. So Akron 5-0, 2 leagues going into the playoffs. I think I have to go with, I think it was Homie Miggs who called out a couple weeks ago saying that Akron might actually be stronger than last year. I kind of have to look at this and agree. I want to see if I have to imagine that they're in the FACEIT league. It's so damn hard to find what teams are where on their FACEIT website, which we'll get into that. FACEIT, I have feedback for you. St. Clair Esports, they're recruiting for Rainbow Six. They're top 3. Not a bad place to be. NJIT Highlanders, we see them over in CEA also. I don't believe they were doing well. So let's. They were one of those bottom teams as well. So to see them doing well here just maybe goes to show the different levels of skills in their matchups. So it because they were also participating with Stockton University. So these two teams were facing each other, and they're relatively close to each other. Round different, or, again, grain of salt with the round differential, but 3 wins, 12 round differential, 2 wins, 11 round differential. That tells me it's pretty tight at a glance, at least. Uh, Northeastern Club is on here. FSU is on here. Alfred State. I had a lot of high hopes for them. I believe they lost to Akron, and it just kind of looks. That was a couple of weeks ago, and it looks like they just kind of slumped a little bit. But they're making do. They're still qualifying for playoffs, so that's one achievement to look forward to, and to hang your hats on, especially because this is one of the first years that they've been competitive in Rainbow Six. Yeah, Boston University up here. Toledo, I'm kind of surprised by. I don't remember them being here. So this is actually important. Ohio State University Scarlet. This is their A team. Scarlet is their A team if that holds true. So this is a southern team by default, or maybe they were considered northern and they put the B team over in southern. But the fact that their A team is fourth to St. Clair, Akron, and Montreal after 4 weeks, again, doesn't have 5th week data, but Ohio State B team is 4-0 at this point, going up against a Georgia Tech A team, A squad. Mm-hmm. And so the Ohio State University has 2 squads that are just stacked, kind of like CU Boulder over in the Mountain Pacific. CU Boulder Black second or first, and then CU Boulder Gold still qualifying for playoffs. And with Olvin in here, maybe he can give us some insight on how CU Boulder Gold's 5th week went. But I mean, we're starting to see some of these universities have enough talent to go multiple teams deep, which is, and I believe this is why FACEIT instituted the rule that a school can only have one team in their competitive league, but as many teams as they want in their essentially intramural league, entertainment league.
Yeah.
And actually, to go back to my CU Boulder comparison, apparently the B squad lost, so they may be out of playoff contention, which would be really unfortunate. It's essentially down to making sure that not too many other two-win teams won, and that their round differential doesn't plummet. If they do well or well enough, they could cling on to a playoff qualifying spot. I'll be really interested in seeing how that data breaks down. But Ohio State, they are definitely doing that. They're definitely having 2 teams.
I might have missed it, but it's Cal Esports on the very right hand column. Is that Cal Berkeley?
I don't know. Let's see if we can find out.
That's the only thing I can think of that's just Cal Esports, right?
Let's see. How are we doing? Oh, we're doing good. Let's see. Stats. You couldn't give me good stats?
Those hippies up at Berkeley.
That's summer stats. But let's see. Team Cal. No, it's not going to be listed here. That's unfortunate. Let's see. Do I have a different spreadsheet open? Match lists. That's not the one I'm looking for. It's not that one either. I have a lot of spreadsheets.
Well, that's okay. We can
we'll look it up later. I don't know if it's Cal Berkeley. Olvin is saying he thinks it is Berkeley. It would make sense because all the California State teams are CSU something, and so that sounds like it would be right.
Either it's Cal
Just
Berkeley or Cal Poly. That's one of those two.
Cal Poly usually identifies as CP or Cal Poly.
Okay.
Uh, when I've seen them in esports. So that's them. That's CR6 at a glance through week 4 with a little bit of updates through 5, which we'll have to talk through the rest of the outcomes next weekend, because it looks like our new streaming time is going to be on weekends. So we're going to accommodate life. How dare we? But we will be broadcasting on weekends, so hopefully more of you all in the community can join us, and we'll start your weekends off right with a little bit of CR6 with your coffee, perhaps maybe with a little lunchtime BLT, nice light lunch to go with some heavy hitting topics in the collegiate Rainbow Six universe. Now we're going to shift to the last league and keep it relatively short, because it's hard to have a lot to talk about with FACEIT in the preseason. It's cool that they're looking at the fall being their preseason and the spring being like the main event. I like that approach. Lets a lot of these new teams, new members really formulate a strategy without having that implied pressure on them, outside of the fact that they want to try and get better. And this is an opportunity to be competitive. It's like free scrims. It's scheduled scrims, being able to adapt on the fly, practice that adaptability without necessarily knowing who you're going to be going up against. So
It also doesn't help that CR6 has or not CR6, but FACEIT has 20 groups.
yeah, 25 groups, 125 teams,
20?
5 teams per group. And I'm going to show this to you because it's silly. I'm going to show this to you. This is how a group looks like. I'll zoom in a little bit. There you go. Group A. Group B. You get five teams again. 5 teams, 5 teams, 5 teams. And so the standings really don't tell you a whole lot. Like, you can click on a team, you see their matchups, team stats. It doesn't tell you how their matches or match history. Match history is not available. Well, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
You go over to matches and you get group A all rounds ongoing. There's nothing ongoing. Why would I want to default to this? The upcoming matches, you can see all the matches that are coming up. But what they don't tell you is that every team gets 1 bye. So past round 1, Norwich gets a bye, and each team will get 1 bye per week. So it looks like there's five weeks, which will really just be a couple matches. Round 1, you get to see how the 5 teams broke down. That's cool. You get the dates and the times when the matches happened, and for anything in the future, hey, you can look at when it's going to be broadcast or when it's scheduled. It's the default time, so maybe it's not as helpful, but if that gets updated live when the teams negotiate, and being able to subscribe and say, hey, a new match is coming on, that's awesome. Before that we started the cast, the media tab also tells you that there's a stream going on if someone's tagged up, but there's not necessarily great identifiers about which teams are playing. There's not great identifiers about who is who in the match, so you don't get the overlays to really help out, which is a bit of a big deal for anyone trying to spectate. But the fact that you have to go through 25 groups to try and find the team, because even in the team list, you can't just search for all the teams. You can't just find the team that you're looking for. You actually have to click through each and every one of them. And like the status, that doesn't help. Playing, not playing.
I don't. What I find ironic is the fact that they took the time to separate the entire U.S. into sections, right, for all those schools. And then they're like, okay, you guys are in all these different divisions. We're just gonna draw names out of a hat for the groups. Just screw it. And
and they're not seeded because they don't have any data on these teams. Or they did have data from the other leagues if they wanted to use that, but they decided not to. So they're round robining everything, mixing and matching everything. Like, what was it? It was Group D that we looked at. Kettering University, no idea who they are, no idea where they're from. And here's the other thing: when you go back, it resets your choice. So I have to remember what group I was looking at when I want to go back. Nobody UX this.
Yeah.
But Elon is on there, Rowan University, and University of Hawaii Manoa. Like, there's such a weird mix-up that it's going to
They
be bizarre.
they need to take things into consideration. Like CJ just said, he goes, "We're in North Carolina and we have to play University of Hawaii
That matchup is going to suck just for
because
latency, everything.
yeah, ping issues. Unless you're on the West Coast, like the ping between matches is going to be horrendous."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there it doesn't look like there's any accommodation for that, which is a pretty abysmal planning, to be honest. I mean, again, they know the regionality of this. They could have set that up. I mean,
Like,
you could have been looking at a league very closely aligned like CR6.
it's not even like that shouldn't even have taken any effort to even think about. Like, oh, this Hawaii group is placed in a group with a bunch of East Coasters. Maybe that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, and
Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
homie Mig's calling out the groups were made friendly and mixed up for the preseason, and the main season will be regionalized. But like,
Regardless,
no,
they should have just seen that and been like, okay, you know what? Let's put them in a group with West
yeah,
Coasters.
I'm
You
gonna
know,
put my producer hat on and be like, at any point in time when you can reduce risk, that's what you do. At this point, they could have been doing something to reduce the risk to the competitive integrity of their season by letting teams be regionalized in the preseason. If this is if this preseason is all of the teams that are both in the intramural and the competitive league, I still have to go, what are you learning from here other than that your tool has really bad usage, that you haven't actually thought about how you're structuring the competitive league, and just put something together that represents the actual product that you want. If you want your competitive league to be competitive, start sorting and practicing your seeding system. Start practicing what you know teams to be good at. Start practicing how you want your production staff to be running this. Like, this just seems like I would rather have CR6 have the support from FACEIT as opposed to what FACEIT has built from the ground up. It doesn't look like they've taken much of the lessons from these other collegiate leagues that have existed to really put something together. At least the tool, with considering it's from FACEIT, considering it has the support of Ubisoft, that the tool that aggregates data and is supposed to be a tool for understanding and showing things off is no better than the publicly run volunteered groups of CR6 and CEA.
yeah,
This has been one of our main critiques of Collegiate Rainbow Six as a whole, not the league, but all of the different leagues. They all do some things better than the others. And one league does one thing better but worse in another, and another league does that thing better but then other things worse, and you get this trifecta of failure and success. FACEIT just looks like they're doing more of that as opposed to bringing everybody up. That's
yeah,
my main complaint right now, is just like, I see this tool and I want it to work, and I want it to work so much better because it would provide a lot of data for you and I to go off of and start adding a perspective to things, but it's just not there. And so if that's what they're learning from this preseason, awesome. Like, let's see it in functionality work for that spring league. But the way that they're organizing these matches, the way that they're kind of haphazardly walking through this, because I haven't seen much hype about this. I haven't seen much discussion about things, even on their Discord server. It feels like they're very sheepishly dipping their toe into this, even though they've already committed to doing it. So I would love feedback from anybody who's on the player side or the coaching side who's interacting with FACEIT on behalf of their team. Hear how things are going for you, because from the outside, it looks like business as usual for Collegiate Rainbow Six. Again, not the league, but the environment as a whole. So that's where I stand on this. There's a lot of usability improvements. There's hopefully some production improvements and some just clarifications of what their intent is about what they're actually building. So hard punches left, right, uppercut, but someone's got to tell them.
Yeah.
What? So, I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I showed you digging, or you and I dug around on the tool a little bit before we started, and yeah,
My thoughts on FACEIT?
yeah,
Um, honestly, I mean, I couldn't tell you yet, but from the looks of it, currently, it I don't know. Honestly, there's not enough information for me to give it
yeah,
an accurate judgment quite yet. You know, it's brand new.
yep,
Um, we're in the preseason to the actual season, so I guess maybe probably about halfway through the first season is probably when I'll have a judgment of it.
mm. Yeah, and
But
I mean, yeah, I agree. There's going to be growing pains, and C. Jomo calls it out too. There will be growing pains, and like what you were saying, like this is their first go at it, but like this is for being a product, for being a professional product. That's where I kind of go, is it? As I look over at
I,
my glasses and go, are you sure?
I, the fact that it's the fact that this whole tournament is being run off of the little FACEIT program that they use to run all the other FACEIT stuff doesn't feel very professional, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It feels like um, they just copy and pasted what the other leagues were doing, and then
Yep.
we're just like, we'll add a preseason to it,
Yeah.
to where everyone can just scrim each other.
And
It feels, it almost feels lazy to me,
yeah,
almost.
I mean, CJOMO calls out growing pains, but it feels very impersonal at times. Less direct interaction with admins to take care of issues and roster changes, so it feels really weird. Olvin is saying it just feels like they threw the preseason out there to keep people busy while they work on the main season. Yeah, I could totally get behind that. And if they are copy
Yeah.
pasting how the FACEIT client works with other games, and they just copy paste that onto CR6 or onto Rainbow Six, like they must have known that this tool doesn't scale well with the number of teams that we're looking at, or it's not the greatest user experience, and so it's hard to pull data out of this. Do I need a separate API, and do I need some engineers to help me out to get the things that I want out of it? But then it's a tool for a tool, and then it just seems like a poorly executed primary tool. Homie Migs chiming in that he agrees with Olvin, saying that they just threw it out there to keep people busy. Yeah, I mean and this is
I
their first blush. This is everyone's first impression of FACEIT owning collegiate Rainbow Six esports, and this does not leave a great deal of confidence from me.
Mhm.
I mean,
It's just it's just this is, to me, this was an insanely lazy placeholder. I really hope that they have something really good following this. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a big disappointment, and they're gonna see. Okay, maybe not. People probably won't leave because they've got too big of a prize pool for people to leave, right? But
yep, they've
it's gonna
bought
be it's gonna be
they've bought
miserable.
loyalty. Yeah, it's going to be
It'll
miserable.
be a miserable experience.
Yep.
You know.
And I would have rather had CRSL improve on their standings and improve on their production than have someone else come in and just kind of mail it in. That's how it seems. This is public perception at this point. And you're right. Teams probably won't drop out of this. Players won't drop out of it because it's got the largest prize pool of the three different leagues. And probably the biggest notoriety behind it. Ubisoft support, FACEIT professional organization, probably some opportunity for some easy marketing from the competitive teams to be able to say, hey, look at us, we're nationally recognized and nationally competing, all that stuff. And
from what I understand, some actual stage time, right? So,
and yeah, and we were theory crafting when we first read the FACEIT rules that they hadn't decided when the grand finals of the spring season was going to be, because it could align with a Rainbow Six Pro League major. So then instead of like an all-star match or in addition to an all-star match, you can have your FACEIT championship match on stage, broadcast live with the main event for professional Rainbow Six. That's a
Yeah.
badass thing.
Yeah, instead of like I think they were going to do that, because it aligns with a pro league match. Instead of doing like a creator showdown or something,
Mm-hmm.
they'll have the collegiate grand final, and you'll probably be casted by the pro league casters.
And when you think about the number of eyes who watch the Rainbow Six majors, where we have like what 200,000 player like unique people watching Rainbow Six esports, not simultaneously but like actively participating, like 200,000 is nothing to scoff at. You look at different media sources and they put Rainbow Six in that tier 1 tier 2 esport range, and it's still growing. So assuming that that pattern can continue, putting college in front of that many spectators and then seeing great competition, it's going to grow the collegiate league. You're going to see reciprocation of effort come in. So they have to pull it off. They have to pull it off, because you don't want to have that lazy look be the first impression that you give to everyone else who just gets introduced to collegiate, or the people who, or the kids who are playing but didn't realize collegiate esports is a thing and that they could get into it. Like for the kids who don't have a team to go into Challenger League, but then they can go into collegiate and get this level of experience. That's a huge boon for all of them. So I would be severely disappointed if FACEIT doesn't really step it up over the next few weeks and over the holidays. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would exactly be like that, Olvin. It would be in front of the U.S. Nationals, or like the U.S. Majors before, like the finals for the playoffs or the main events before a major, an international major. But yeah, U.S. Nationals makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I mean,
But
it'd be kind of cool if that got actual stage time, but
and at the same time, I don't know if Europe has a European collegiate league being run by FACEIT. That'd be something interesting to find out, or see who's running a collegiate Europe league and see if they plan on doing anything with their European pro league. Because that, I mean, esports is in all colleges across Europe right now as well. So you could easily imply that you could have that in all of the major regions that they have the pro league running, which then you run a collegiate major and you build and you build and you build. Like you keep building off of the attention that you have. Community run Euro Uni League. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be that, but who would stop ESL or FACEIT or hell, you could probably have Dignitas run your own European collegiate league. I mean, pro teams are looking for that level of content creation and production, so it's entirely possible. Yeah, and there's 3 majors a year in the new Ubisoft esports plan. Yeah, I mean, all-star game in one, or all-star matchup at one, creator challenge up in another, and then collegiate championship. If the competition's good enough, even if it was only U.S. universities participating, if the competition was good enough and if the planning was deep enough and if that's where they wanted to draw the attention to, especially if they can pull out that there's more North American watchers, spectators, and then like European, then you put your US teams on the spotlight and you show that off on stream. Like you want to go where the attention's at, and the attention could possibly be coming from the US more than anywhere else. Hard to say. I don't have that data. Yeah, even as a major, it could be US Nationals. That's right. And I mean, we could go down this rabbit hole for a long time, but I think we've said what we've wanted to say about things. And if you have feedback, as usual, you can reach out to me or Syntax on Twitter at WarlockRCall or at SyntaxGG. We can also, once again, leave messages for us on the podcast at anchor.fm/checkyour6 slash message, and leave your feedback there. We dove into a lot of topics, a lot of teams. Give us updates on where your teams are at, what's changed, what's happening, how you felt you've improved or not quite gone as far as you wanted to in your season so far. Let us know. Thanks everyone. Olvin, Sijomo, Homie Migs, thanks for joining us in chat. Syntax, once again, thanks for joining me on the podcast. I'll let you sign us out for the week, and we will hopefully see you all next Saturday as well, or Sunday. We'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, see, Jomo, just shoot us a message on Twitter whenever you want to come on. We are welcome to schedule around whatever you need. So just let us know. And as always, guys, I really hope you guys have a good week, and we will see you guys next time.
Later.